What is up, everybody? Joe Siv here with you, Rad Parenting with my co-host.
Anea Bogue.
We're hanging out, eating almonds that our guest brought.
That are not just any almonds.
Yeah.
They're super yummy, and I'm sure, knowing Annie as I do, that they're chock full of some additional nutritional value.
Annie Jubb is our guest today. We've talked about doing this show forever. It's about nutrition. We have an expert here. When I thought about doing Rad Parenting, one of the first things I talked to Anea about was we were talking about topics for the show. And the first thing was, I was like, I want to do one on nutrition just because as a parent, there's so many options out there, but there's so many things being thrown at us all the time as parents. Like, I don't know, I'll just totally be transparent. Like the gluten thing, I always joke around, it sounded like a metal band from Germany. Just like, and everyone was bummed on gluten. And I was like, I want more of it. Like, I don't even know. Like when people tell me not to do something, I'm immediately like, no, I'm going the opposite way.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the core idea, but it took us forever to find the right person. The best thing about this is that unbeknownst to me, like I didn't even know this, that I have gone to your shop. It's on Cahuenga and Sunset. It's called
in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles. Cahuenga, Sunset, in Los Angeles. It's called Life Food Organic. I would go in there sometimes for lunch because my old office where we used to tape this show was right up the street from you. So we would go in there and you have these salads that were so rad and all these juices.
Amazing raw food that doesn't taste like anything you could ever imagine. It's so delicious.
And it's all being made right there. But also what I loved about it too was you offered all these cleanses, like a liver cleanse, a kidney cleanse. Like just there were so many things that I wanted to do. Like I was like, I'm going to cleanse everything in like one shot. But the best part was all the people that you had working there were so knowledgeable. Like they were so friendly and super cool. And I remember even my mom had just started, she had colon cancer.
Okay.
And the woman, I forgot the name of the woman. I told her what was up. She got on the phone with my mom. Like she said, let me call her right now. This is what you need to do. Boom, 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 boom. And my mom beat colon cancer. And it was crazy. And my mom always says, remember when you put the phone, and this is so crazy that you're here right now.
Gosh. So let's welcome Annie Jubb so everybody knows who we're talking to.
Miracle worker in the studio right now.
That's not exactly an exaggeration. I didn't give you the whole scoop on my friend Annie, who literally, just for our listeners, they understand, Annie has healed people that doctors have said there's nothing more we can do for you. And she, through nutrition and her just incredible expertise, not to mention, I'm sure, some love and great juju, gives these people many more years on their lives after the traditional medical system has been like, sorry, that's all we got for you. So welcome.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah,
and I'm glad to hear about your mom coming through her
it was crazy.
Healthcare and into better health, right?
Yeah, and it really, I think the core of this show is, you're talking about a woman, in my mom's case, 77 years old, ate well, the majority of her life. She's, battled with being a diabetic. But it goes back to our listeners with their children. The children, we've got, so many listeners have toddlers. People are just ready to have their first kid. People got teenagers. And I mean, there's so many questions that we could start with. I'm gonna throw it over to Anea because I know that Anea kind of had the framework of how she wanted to roll this thing. Because if you leave it up to me, I'll just go every direction.
Joe will have us all over the map.
Yeah.
So I think that, it's interesting because when it comes to nutrition, so as parents, there's many different decisions we may make in terms of what school's my kid going to go to, or, what kind of toys am I going to allow or not allow? Are we allowing TV or not? But nutrition is something that happens every day from the moment that little person comes out of the womb. And what I have learned in the years that I've known you is that we really underestimate the correlation between what we're putting into our body in terms of food and how that translates into our brain, our brain function. Right. Things like we're seeing incredible incidence in this part of the world of ADD among kids, allergies, depression and anxiety. We're seeing kids being put on meds from the time they're very young. And I just think it would be, unfortunate if we didn't, in with this forum and parents who are really eager to know more and really do right by their kids, to not have the kind of information that you've made it your life's work to make available. So I would love for us to explore that sort of I'd love our listeners to be able to walk away from the show and feel like, here are like 3 or so things that I can do immediately that are going to have a positive impact on my child's life.
And like, I'll add to it, and I'll throw this in there. Like I feel like we're making a cocktail of questions to ask you right now.
It's getting
So-
long.
so
The list is
remember-
growing.
Yeah, but I'd have to ask
But
you
I'm
this.
okay with that, yeah.
I like to speak for the parents that are like, yeah, I'd love to eat healthy, and we try to on the weekends because I'm around. But, check it out. 2 parents working full time. Trying to make everything happen, trying to get out the front door. And I'll be honest, eating healthy, it takes time and it takes preparation. And I have 2 kids, and it's a hassle sometimes. It's so much easier just to be like, here you go, turkey sandwich or whatever, throw it down, let's go.
Lunchables. Lunchables are super popular at my daughter's school. She's always
Really?
like
Those, like,
complaining,
prepackaged?
yes, that she
Yeah.
can't have them.
I'm gonna go on record right now saying that we don't, I'm not throwing Lunchables. But I also want to say too, going on record that, hey, if you're listening to this show and you are rolling Lunchables or any of the things, this isn't a show to make you be down on yourself. This is a show to hopefully give you an opportunity to go, oh wow, there's another opportunity, another choice I could make.
And here's how I might be able to
There
make
you
it
go.
work
'Cause
or
we
take
do-
a step in that direction.
Yeah, Anea and I do not want to come off like, hey, yeah, everyone needs to eat super healthy. You're like, hey, check it out, I want to, but like I said, it's hard for parents to do that. So Annie, can you give us kind of like a structure, and also just the importance of when kids are so young to feed them the right things?
Right. Well, right throughout our lives, we need to look at nutrition because that's a really foundational thing. Everybody eats, right? And they eat a couple times a day. So if you don't do great on breakfast, you can back it up with lunch and throw some extra tomatoes on that turkey sandwich. Or if they really want, macaroni and cheese, you're going to have that tonight. But you know what? Find out what your children like to eat. Like my niece was like that. She's very vegetable finicky, So I would just, whenever I sit with her, I'm like, what do you love? And she has these kind of bizarre tastes. She loves, onions. You can put onions in everything, right?
I love onions.
Yeah,
I do
and
too,
so
but-
whatever I was making for her, throw a lot of onions. She hates tomatoes, but she loves avocado, So anything I could make for her, even a little side dish of an avocado with onion salad, that takes a minute, you know what I mean? And that goes next to whatever she was gonna eat anyway. And she'll eat it. She loves it. You have to find out what does work and then go there.
So Anea has her hand up. So let's take it back a little bit further because one of the things so I've been quite fortunate with both of my girls. I think each of them have one food item that they just are like, nope, won't. And everything else, their palates are broad and they're pretty adventurous and are willing to try things. But so when I hear from parents that are like, my kid, all they'll eat is, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, or all they'll eat is 3 things on them. And the parents just oh yeah. Or even when I go into a restaurant and the kids menu, every kids menu at every restaurant has the same 3 items: chicken nuggets, hot dogs, or mac and cheese or grilled cheese or something like that.
My son has a friend that comes over here, and it's always an issue of feeding him. He will not eat anything except either it's cheese pizza or a bagel with nothing on it.
Right.
That's the only thing this kid eats. And then I've even said to the parents, wow, at home, and is that happening? And they're like, that's all we can get him to eat. And they've surrendered to it.
Okay, so let's stop that right there. Let's break that down for a minute, right? So, so bagels and cheese pizzas, right? So basically, there's a starch addiction there, and starches break down to sugar in the body. So I can already tell you this kid has a ton of candida in its system, right? So the way you want to go in the other direction is start feeding the friendly bacteria, because candida, as you might know, is an unfriendly bacteria that can be opportunistic and just take over.
I don't even know what candida is.
So candida is a yeast in the body. We all have a little bit of it that lives in symbiotic relationship with us, but when it can get overgrown is when the diet becomes too sugar heavy. And starches, bread, wheat, corn, rice, potatoes, are all sugars. They are all starches that break down to sugar in the body. So that's a really big teaching piece right there, because if you just get that, then you understand, I'm giving them the bagel, but it's really sugar, and they're going to be out of their mind and crazy in a minute.
And you're thinking right there, I'm giving them a bagel, that's not sugar.
Right.
And now what you just told me right now, it is.
Yeah, so that's a really big thing to start to navigate diet with, because in America, there's a ton of starches everywhere. And it's part of the food abundance that we have now, which we didn't have 100 years ago, but we also have all the problems from that too. So those sugar-based diseases are cancer, obesity, diabetes, a lot of that is all just a sugar-based disease. So we're going to have starches in our diet anyway. How do you deal with that, right? So the way you want to deal with that is you can anchor it down a starch with a protein and a fat. So say with your, what was it, the peanut butter and jelly story, right?
Yeah.
So the peanut butter, first of all, just start reading labels too, because that peanut butter is going to have a lot of hydrogenated oil in it. Most of them do, and sugar. So you're already kind of missing the boat there. But there's a ton of them out there that don't. Or peanuts are often a big allergen too, so you can switch to an almond butter or a sunflower seed butter or something that your kids can make themselves. They can feel empowered by, but you know that they're getting a really quality protein without all the sugar. And then, for your jellies and stuff too, look at the jams, read labels. If sugar's the first ingredient, often it is.
Yeah.
You can start to, don't do something really abrupt, but start cutting it down, cutting it back a little bit. Or go with a pure thing like honey, like peanut butter and honey or almond butter and honey. Look at the quality of your bread. Is it a super fast-moving sugar like white bread? Start to incorporate a flaxseed bread, or you have to see what their palate will accommodate.
Right. So back to the palate, because I think that's really important, is I always am wondering, and I've heard things like often children who have been breastfed versus formula fed have a more complex palate because they're constantly getting used to, if mom has such and such in her diet today, that is somehow reflected in the taste of the milk. But kids who have been formula fed, not all the time, but have this more sort of singular palate.
Well,
so how do we start them off early on having a palate for more than just 3 foods or super starchy foods?
Right. So if you're going to have a baby, breastfeeding is really good because it starts to feed the microbiome of that baby for life. In the first few days, the colostrum that flows from the breast is, it takes a long time to rebuild the microbiome if you don't get that, but it's easy to do, and then we're going to talk about how to rebuild that. If they don't, look at the formula. The formula has a lot of sugar in it and a lot of what we call excitotoxins. So they're chemical flavorings that are stimulating the child's salivatory glands and the palate that get them to think it's real food, but oftentimes it's not.
Wow.
So they're chemically addicted and tricked and there's huge billion-dollar industries built around this, not just for kids, but that is targeted to young children specifically. Now they have more, better baby foods and such like that. But especially formula, you wanted to really look at that and see what's in it. And you have to be kind of a chemist because that is a chemical start to your child's palate. But let's move forward a couple years. So say that, you didn't know and you gave them the formula and now it's time to regroup and try to recalibrate the palate into fresh, real food, which is fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, and some fermented foods too. So, there's yogurts out there. Unfortunately, a lot of them aren't real, great yogurts, but they'll have other fermented. Well, look for something that doesn't have a lot of sugar in it. First of all, look for something that has added bacteria back into it. Because in America, we have this silly policy where we need to pasteurize all of the dairy products. They don't have that in the rest of the world. So they'll have all the enzymes and the probiotics in the yogurt itself. Here, we don't really have that, but they can add it back in after they pasteurize it. So they'll brag about it. They'll just take the probiotics and add it back into the yogurt after they've pasteurized it, and it'll brag about it. There's a couple brands out there. Bio is one, those little Bio shots like that. Those are loaded with beneficial bacterium, or take a probiotic, or look at other friendly fermented foods too, like kimchi and raw sauerkraut, and add these in too. I found even children with difficult palates, if you take the raw sauerkraut and you give them a sweet potato and mash it in there with a little bit of butter and salt and some pepper, and then you throw that on top, they often really like it because it's something they're actually craving. But you package it with, a slow-moving, starchy, like a sweet potato, and then you can start to grow them into the desire for having fermented foods.
I love the 2 words that you just said, packing it together and then anchoring it. Like that right there, that game changer right there. So you're having one, like my son's friend who's only going to be eating the bagel. What you're saying is that you can have, that can be a part of it, but also you can anchor it with something that's actually good.
Start adding in the things.
Love that.
Absolutely. So the cheese pizza kid too. The first thing I would say is name. Oh yeah,
it's the same kid.
I would say to them, I've been in this situation a bunch of times. I would say, name 2 of your favorite vegetables. Let's start there.
He'll
or
say none.
A fruit.
He'll say none.
What about papaya? What about there's going to be something in there that he does like that would be kind of fun to add to that cheese pizza and get them involved creatively as well. So I've made pizza with kids, and we say, what are your favorite pizzas? And we make a tomato sauce base is just, it's so easy to do. But once they get involved, they get their hands into it.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Let's taste this. What would be good in there? What about a little basil? The herbs are really easy and elegant to introduce too. And it really starts to evolve their palate to more sensitivity,
I got to interrupt right now too. because I'm rocking your green. Annie brought me, first of all, from the shop, I'm going to give another plug to it, Life Food Organic. Radness. I think you should throw that on there.
Yep.
And this is a Life Food Organic drink, and it's called Green and Apple. And it's,
Joe doesn't have his readers on.
yeah, I don't have my readers on. It
Green
has
apple,
celery in it, it has
kale,
lemon,
cucumber,
kale.
celery, and lemon.
Yeah. Wow.
Boom.
Yeah, I feel good. That hangover I had from last night is
Yeah.
totally disappearing.
I'm so
Yeah,
happy to
I
hear
love
that.
This
that.
is really great brain food too. This is a beautiful food to make your blood very, very slippery, so the red blood cells have great integrity, which is great for brain functioning. It's good for your microbiome all throughout. But it's really nice too because I designed this. It kind of came as a download when I first started working with raw living foods like 27 years ago. I was like, you know what, we have to make it palatable. People have to think it's tasty. And so I started playing with apples, and I found that the green apples are much slower moving, less hybridized fruit than the red apples that are often, grown very, very, with more hybridized and often. Anyway, long story short, if you throw some green apple in there, they love it. It's delicious, and I can feed it to children. And
There's
I do a
something
lot
spicy in there. What's the spice I'm tasting?
There's a little parsley in it.
I like that.
Yeah.
My wife, there's so much kale in our fridge sometimes that it looks like the gardener just like put a bag of like all the trimmings from the front yard in there. Like she
My
got
kinda
this bag
awesome.
and she's just blending it all the time and making everyone in the house drink it.
My kind of girl.
Can I ask you a question now?
Please.
Just because one of the things that I loved is the anchoring it down bit.
Yeah.
I feel like that's super, super important. You touched on this for a second. If you're listening to the show and you're like, wow, okay, I have not been doing this with my son or daughter. I love your attitude of, it's not too late. I even love your attitude with the day.
We're not dead yet.
I know. But
Yes, that's what I always say.
So
Tell me your
many people,
last
they're like,
breath.
the doctor gave me 3 months to live. I said, well, you're not dead yet. Let's get busy.
yeah.
know?
You've had people say, I got 3 months to live. And
Hundreds of times.
wow,
Hundreds of times.
to your
Like,
face saying that, coming
Oh,
to the
yeah.
shop.
Well, I ran an outpatient fasting clinic in New York City with my liver and gallbladder flush, which is incredibly effective for reversing the conditions of degenerative diseases. And I really kind of started out in the early 90s, and for whatever reason, like a couple people like this came to me, post-op cancer patients. They'd done the chemo, they'd had body parts removed, they had done everything that the doctors could in their repertoire, and they were given a few months to live, and for whatever reason, they wandered in, they found. And I said, well, let's see what you can do. What's your diet like now? And they look like hell because they've just come through chemo and body parts.
Yeah.
And often their insurances drop them, their relationships are trashed, like everybody, like they're on the outs, And so you just have to reinforce people and give them the courage, that you have the power inside of yourself to change your body and your mind and your spirit and your relationships and your environment. And all of that is totally doable. And there's only 1 billion examples of it throughout history and time. And then it's important, too, to remember that nobody outside of you can dictate your future, And nobody can tell me I'm going to die in 3 months. I'd be like, And so what you do then is you say, what can I do? How do I get rolling on this? And it's like, oh, wow, I'm really trashed from these operations. And so it's like, well, what do I need to do? Oh, what if I flood my body with raw living foods? What if I nourish my body with my microbiome, which has been through all of these antibiotics? There's almost nothing left. Start feeding the microbiome, which is your first resistance to all kinds of diseases and to viruses. And so it starts to reverse and they look better and they feel better. And 2 or 3 days into it, they look really good. And a week or two into it, their hair's growing back if they had the chemo, and their faces are beautiful. They've got color coming through because a lot of times they're just gray when they come out of that situation. And all of a sudden they have hope and courage again. And their wife looks at them and says, well, maybe you will live. Maybe I can start engaging back here because that's a lot of the thing that happens.
Everything you just said right there, if you're listening, you're like, all right, I got to start eating better. I mean, that right there should be the commercial for the show. Okay, going back to parents, what would be something that you would say to a family listening right now? They have 2 kids. It's summertime, and they got the summer camps, and the dad's trying to go to work, or their partner's trying to go to work. Everyone's just trying to make it all. What are is there
some basics, the simple things you can start to incorporate.
Some core nutrients that you can say, look, every day, no matter what, just make sure this happens. I'm a fan of that. Just so that, very simple. Make sure you get this in your body during the day and your children's body.
Absolutely. Well, vegetables are the big healers, and they will keep you well and supple and your joints good and right throughout life. And also for children that are suffering from any kind of behavioral disorders like the ADHD and all the different acronyms we have for basically attention deficit disorder. And it's like, what helps them? Greens anchor everything down. Magnesium deficiency is probably the biggest thing that's happening for all of Americans, and it's spreading right across the planet. So we need to eat more magnesium-rich foods, right? We were talking about your son just a little bit before, and his attention span is going to grow as soon as you see that he's getting more like, magnesium-rich foods. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, what are those foods?
Raw almonds. So I brought you guys some almonds today. You can dress them up or just have them plain. They're loaded with magnesium. Raw chocolate. So you can always make a delicious, little shake. Remember those shakes we made?
Yes.
He's going to be stoked.
Yeah.
Right? You have to just make it sexy.
Got it.
Food is sexy.
Yeah.
They eat with their eyes first. Make it pretty, and make it sexy. And,
Okay. And this is magnesium.
for magnesium,
And
which
that's
is the
gonna
number one
that's gonna
nutrient
take
that
care
I
of
focus on
with
for
folk.
everybody,
Okay.
and especially for kids, because that sets them up for life for success, right? So dark leafy greens. Anything that's green has a ton of magnesium in it. And we need to eat a lot of greens. I drink one of these green juices. I drink 2 or 3 of these green juices every day, and I can really notice if I don't do it. And that's an easy way to get it into them too. You got to find out what works, what their palate will agree to. Throw more apples in there. Throw a pineapple in there too, a little bit too, but bury it inside of the greens, so that they have enough magnesium
Anchor
for brain. Anchor it. It's
always
about
about
the
anchoring.
greens. He likes that
an
word.
anchor tattoo.
Anchor
I'm
it.
going to get a salad bowl with an anchor in it. Would that be a rad tat?
Oh God, Joe.
Are you feeling that? No? Okay.
Terrible idea.
Okay, so far we got raw almonds, we got raw chocolate for a shake or
Leafy
something like
greens.
that. Leafy greens.
Yep.
These are all foods, magnesium to help with attention. That is something that is definitely going on in our household with my son and his attention. Like I was telling you earlier, if and I'm going to be totally transparent right now. None of these foods are being eaten.
By Nate right now.
No.
Yeah.
Huh.
He's eating a little bit of salad.
Yeah.
But he's not rocking like, hey, let's have it. He's not rocking this drink, that you just gave me, which would be great. And what else can I throw in there for him?
Well, any spirulina or blue-green algae is just loaded with magnesium as well. And it's really nice, too, because, like, Anea and I each had some of the brain on, which is the E3 Live, which is a great blue-green algae they get out of this Lake Klamath in southern Oregon. And you can find them all over the world. They either grow in lakes or they grow in the ocean. And it's a simple little capsule or tablet. You can throw that into the smoothie in the morning. They won't taste it. They won't know it's there. It will make it green, and it starts to get them visually into the green because a lot of kids are just like, I don't like greens. And if you ever watch any children's shows on television, they are hypnotizing that into them. I can't even watch TV. Don't get me going on that. But even inside the cartoons and such like this, like a lot of my friends have babies right now, like in their 40s, they decided to pop out a couple of kids, And so you see these TV shows, and they're all like, even some of the adorable ones, some of these adorable movies, and they were like, you don't want green, you don't want broccoli, that's icky. Oh, look, I want this cake, and it goes on and on and on. My background's in behavior physiology, and I know how to teach clinical hypnosis, and that is absolutely clinical hypnosis. It's suggestion beyond belief. It should be outlawed, actually.
That's so interesting, because here we are looking as parents for like violence or swearing or sex. But nice, Joe.
Guys, we sang that together.
But,
it's like
and for me, in my world, it's messages around gender roles that are super limiting. But I actually did not think about those messages, and I hopefully after hearing this I call them brain prompts. We will now see when in these shows that our kids are watching exactly what you're talking about. How many value messages are there around food being driven into our children's brains through these shows that they're watching.
Absolutely. It's always like, broccoli is bad, but look at this packaged food is delicious. We're going to break now. Hey, how about Pop-Tarts, kids?
Yeah.
I love the Pop-Tarts. And here's a little bunny that's selling you Pop-Tarts. And it just goes like that.
Yeah.
And that's absolute classical conditioning.
So and the thing that just everything you're talking about is just all of the processed food that we're buying that we even think, hey, this is healthy. Well, it was frozen. Or, hey, it's processed. It was all put together. And you're still feeding it to your family under the guidelines that you love them and you want them to eat well and you think you're feeding them well, but just by everything that you're talking about right here is the more live, fresh food that you're actually putting inside your body.
Sneak it in wherever you can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we're going to have burgers tonight. What do you want on your burger that's fresh? You want a little avocado on that? You want a cucumber? You want tomatoes? You want onions? You want some greens on it? You like the arugula? Like, it's got to have something on there. Anchor it in, and then but give them choice because kids love choice. They thrive inside of that environment. And then what I found too is then they start thinking on their own too. They're like, you know what, I could make the salad tonight. And like when I was a little girl, we had a huge organic garden, and we had children from the ages of like 15 to 7, and everybody. So there were 7 of us actually, and so every day you got to design what you wanted, but it had to have a fresh salad from the garden. So I, from a very early age, started thinking about salads. And I was always on the side picking the weeds, and they were always like, you're going to kill us with the weeds. And I am victorious because those weeds have way more nutrient, like dandelion and things like that. Like I always laugh at family, gatherings. I'm like, I was right. Can we all agree? But throw anything in there that's, green and fresh and living and was picked within the last week or two and has a lot of vitality to it.
Hey, we're hanging out with Annie, owner, founder of Life Food Organic. It's in Los Angeles, Cahuenga, Sunset. We're going to take a break for a second. We're going to come back with more rad parenting. Do you ever feel that you do not have enough time in the day to do what you're supposed to get done? You're going to work. You're maybe trying to hit the gym, but you forgot that, I got to pick so-and-so up from daycare. I got to get my dad over to his doctor's appointment. I wanted to pick up the house before I left. Wow, check it out. How am I going to get everything done? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Go to care.com. Care.com. Care.com is the world's largest digital marketplace for finding and managing family care. That is right. Family care needs can be unpredictable. You got sick kids. You need someone to stay home. Man, both parents are out there trying to make a living. Your kids get sick. Who's going to stay home? Who's going to miss out on that cash? Now you go to care.com and they'll have someone for you that can look after your kids. Don't stress your life away. Seriously, most working parents worry about their kids every minute of the day. You're more at ease and more focused when you know your kids or your parents or even your pets are well cared for. Best part is this, care.com provides access to a variety of background check options you can purchase to help make sure that you're making the best hiring decision. That's my favorite part right there. They're letting you know there's a million different things for you to check out on the background check options so you know who's going to be there with your kids or with your parents or with your pet taking care of the situation. Care.com. Check it out now. If you go to care.com right now, you ready for this? To save 30% off care.com premium membership, visit care.com/rad parenting when you subscribe, and you're going to get 30% off. Like I said, the world's moving a million miles an hour. You just want to take care of your kids and all the responsibilities. Let care.com help. We are back, Rad Parenting, hanging out in the studio with my new friend Annie, talking about all this amazing food. I'm kind of hungry right now, seriously. When you talked about...
Eat those almonds.
I know. Those almonds are awesome. This drink you brought me is awesome. And it's crazy because, as I talked about at the beginning of the show, Life Food Organic, located on Cahuenga and Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood and also in Santa Monica. I stumbled upon your shop.
That's so
just
fun.
so randomly, and now you're here in our studio.
See that? We had a date with destiny.
Gosh.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah.
I do too.
And the thing, too, that I'm learning so much right now is, like, when you say live food, like, I'm going to totally be the moron in the room right now. Like, what does that mean? Like, hey, you got it, because you keep saying live, like live food.
It's just fresh fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and some fermented foods that it just hasn't been cooked. That's all.
Okay.
And there's in fresh food there's enzymes, and so the enzymes in that apple, before you cook it, just eating a crunchy apple, has all of the enzymes in it to digest that food for you. It doesn't cost you anything. But cook the apple, put it into a pie, eat that pie, and you've got to beg, borrow, and steal enzymes from your blood, bone, body, tissue, wherever, and that is the process of aging, and do it too much, and that's the process of degenerating.
So that whole idea of the raw food, what you just said with aging, have you, when people just eat raw, like I always...
Oh my God, you get so beautiful so fast.
Really? I got to do that tonight.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Get right on that.
I'm going to do that right now. Can that happen by the time the end of this show happens?
I tell you, I work with a lot of celebrities that trash themselves out, and then they call me, and I go over there, and in 3 days, I can pretty much get them looking good. I prefer a week, but
for right now though, why does that happen if you eat just 100% raw food? What is that just because
what it does is
taking
it bathes,
chemicals out?
It absolutely floods your body with nutrient. And so here's what you think. If you eat a lot of cooked and denatured foods, this is what sets up obesity, by the way. You eat a lot of cooked and denatured foods, there's really no nutritional value to it. You're not getting vitamins and minerals and fats and oils and things that you need. Instead, you're getting a lot of processed starch, fried, whatever, just all the American greasy fries, whatever. And so what that does is then you eat until the stretch receptors in your stomach say, I can't eat another bite. That's a very poor way of feeling full. The best way of feeling full is when you're nutritionally complete. So if I eat an avocado here, I might be like, I don't want another avocado, but I'll have some of these tamari almonds because they're delicious, and I might have a pear for dessert, right? Each one of those is a food that comes directly from nature, right through spirit to you, and it's got what's called an alloesthetic taste change response reaction inside of you. So what that means is your body nutritionally knows when you've had enough of that nutrient. Mm-hmm. It naturally shuts it off, and your stomach is probably half full. But you're good to go, and it's total nutrition, and so it's just absolute rocket fuel, and you know how to digest that very well if you chew your food well, and you know
Talk
how
about
to...
chewing your food.
Chewing your food is a big deal because you want to thoroughly masticate it. Whatever goes into your mouth should be chewed to a liquid because then you have it enhances with the salivatory glands, it enhances the production of enzymes, and so naturally you're already starting to digest that food in the mouth before it even comes down to the stomach. Your stomach is happy because here's this liquid, nutrient-rich, and enzymatically activated food.
And that's also why you don't, when you eat foods like that, have that food coma after where you're like,
right.
Oh my gosh, I need a nap.
Yeah, exactly. Starches give the food coma a big lift, Or not a lift, but a start.
And I've read this, as a lot of us have, that there's an addiction to the foods that we don't want.
Oh yeah, well let's talk about that.
Yeah, can we talk about that? Because
sure.
I feel that all of us have experienced that, and when we have kids, maybe you're feeding them food that they suddenly, maybe the kid that I'm talking about that has the bagels and pizza all the time.
They're chemically addicted to that food. Yeah.
I hope his parents aren't listening because they're going to be like, why are you? Because I think I talked about it on
We haven't said any names.
I've talked about him on another show, too. He's kind of been a part. He's been a part of.
Poor kid.
Poor kid.
Okay.
He's a good kid, though.
He's just an example.
Yeah.
He's an example of middle America, right? I mean, that's not unusual, unfortunately. So, so there's billion-dollar industries in this country that produce food additives and flavorings and seasonings that are called excitotoxins. And so they excite the salivatory glands to death, and they're often targeting children, like all of the baby foods from what do you call it? The first thing that they drink, the
formula. Yeah.
From formula right on up and through. And so these, the formula, it's not that tasty if you don't add these flavorings and seasonings. And they want to get the baby to drink it, and they want the mommy to feel happy and buy that food again and again and again because, the baby drinks it really fast. They're setting up that chemical addiction. So it actually has really, really serious complications and implications with the hypothalamus and the hippocampus of the brain, which sets up all your psychosexual behavior, your rest and activity phases. It has everything to do with how that kid's going to function in time and space and with other people going forward.
Okay, all those words you just said, those were...
They're different parts of the brain that set up cycles in your body.
Yeah. Okay, so say that again. So these the taste... The chemical they put in the food.
The excitotoxins come into the mouth.
Excitotoxins.
Right? Yeah, and it starts to play with the palate and the salivatory glands. So the brain thinks, I'm salivating over this, it's delicious food. Right?
Totally being tricked.
Yeah, and so it tricks that into it, and then baby goes glug, 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 and the mommy's so happy because the bottle just went down like crazy. You've breastfed. You know how long it can take for the baby to go, I'm still on the breast. It can take a half an hour or something.
Yes.
They drink this puppy down in like 4 or 5 minutes. Mommy's happy. She's off moving. She's doing something else. They'll buy that food again and again and again. Now the baby's chemically addicted to that food.
So that's where the circle starts,
sets up
right
the palate.
there.
Yeah.
Wow is right. Okay, so now because we talked a little bit, the reason I want to keep coming back to some of these, I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to call them conditions, but we have a lot of parents who are really struggling with these different diagnoses with their children.
Sure.
Everything from various allergies to things like ADD, anxiety. Things that are seriously impacting their children's ability to move through the world to their highest potential. Is the way that I would articulate it. Mm-hmm. So where does what you just described, how does that fit into some of these diagnoses that we're seeing so frequently in children?
That's the basis of all neuroses, really. It really is. Because I've worked with these kids to turn that condition around, and you really can. The body's a perfect self-correcting mechanism. There's nothing it can't do to self-correct, even genetically, right? I've seen it go to such a place where people's like, I'm genetically predisposed to this. It's like, yeah, let's play with this. And let's see how far we can get you to right and feeling balanced and good in your body and powerful and sleep well through the night and wake up in the morning with your life's mission and purpose. That's what you're born to do.
Yes.
You're not born to struggle with illness, Anyway, so So the first thing is to get them off the chemicals. You don't want a drug-addicted kid, especially not to begin, because it also sets up addiction process right throughout the life. They're like, oh, I'm designed to stick this in my mouth, and then I get a chemical hit, a dopamine hit, and sometimes endorphin hit too, plays with the serotonin, so you get this real excitement about eating, and it's like, oh, I want to eat that food, Mommy, can I have an ice cream bar? I want to have an ice cream bar. And you look at some of the chemicals on those ice cream bars or whatever, I'm sure there's good ice cream out there too, and there is, but a lot of those are just cheap, and they're loaded with chemicals, and they're very addictive. And sugar is often the base of those things. The fast-moving sugars, especially the fake sugars, the aspartame, and all of this kind of a thing. Those are like those long chemicals that are listed on the food. Like that.
If you can't speak them, maybe you shouldn't eat them.
You shouldn't be eating them. Yeah, exactly. You'll know what it is if it's fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. You know what I mean?
I don't even want to say to you, those Cheetos. Those,
boy.
They're spicy.
Okay, so let's break Cheetos down. Okay, or let's go to Doritos because that's super easy because it's in their tagline, bet you can't eat just one. Okay, you can't. And why you can't is because they've worked for years to get you chemically addicted to it. So as soon as you get one in your mouth, they don't even taste that good, but you're chemically addicted to eating them. And we've all been there at times where you're just like, chip, 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 chip. You're full. The stretch receptors are full in the tummy. And your arm's still reaching out to get another one, And that's what an addict is. You've seen addicts, right, where they can't stop drinking or the thing, or they're shooting up or they're snorting things. All of that is the same type of behavior. And it's even in their tagline. I bet you can't eat just one.
That's their mission.
That's their mission, and they're selling it exactly
So
the way.
what is the connection then, to be really clear, between those various chemicals and et cetera, that are in these foods that we're getting our kids addicted to because we're not thinking so much of like, well, this is what everybody eats. Or I've had my little one come home and be like, well, so-and-so gets to have Doritos specifically for lunch. Why can't I? And so what is the correlation between those chemicals that we're finding in foods, particularly processed foods, and our children getting an ADD or an ADHD diagnosis?
Well, just look at their behavior around that food. They're acting like addicts. Why does she want that so much? And well, and then okay, so the excitotoxins themselves, right? And there's a great book called Excitotoxins too. It's not a new book. It's been around since like the mid '90s. It's a great book and a really nice read too, because it also shows you how on ingredients lists, they've by law now they can, like MSG, for example, is a huge excitotoxin. But a few decades ago, everybody was like, MSG, it's a bad thing. And they all started thinking, okay, monosodium glutamate, let's not have that. Let's look for that. And even like, Chinese stores or shops and stuff that make Chinese food were saying, oh, no MSG on their labels and stuff. So then the MSG Foundation, which comes out of Tokyo, I believe, and there's a very powerful, very rich family behind it that own that thing. So they went into different countries and they said, well, let's rename it because everybody's sensitive to MSG now. So we can now call it spices. We can call it natural seasonings.
What?
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So they're crafty.
I feel like the FDA is failing if they let that happen.
Oh, yeah, they very much are. Yeah, they very much are. So they're controlled by big money. Basically, big pharma is in there, and these chemical companies are wildly powerful. And so you just have to. So how do you navigate that?
Yes.
How do you navigate that? So what I always recommend for people, anybody and everybody, whatever age, is to eat at least 50% of your diet real food. You know what it is.
You know where it came from.
You know where it came from. Organic if you can, but don't go crazy on it. Just start wherever you are, and you'll find that you'll be saving money too, because it's cheaper to buy a bag of broccoli, even if it's frozen broccoli, which is also fine. Frozen broccoli is fine.
Okay, that is.
Frozen vegetables are fine. Fruits are fine. You lose like a little tiny bit of enzymes in it, which
good to
I'm
know.
okay with.
That's good to know. I know right now some listeners are like stoked on that. Like,
Yep.
Okay.
That's a time
I'm
saver.
in the game.
It's a time saver. It doesn't go bad. You'll always
love
have it on hand. It's easy to throw into anything. Even if you give into the mac and cheese, you can throw some broccoli in there. You can have mac and cheese, but it has to have broccoli in it, and you have to eat it.
Right.
Okay, that's the deal.
Yeah.
And then get them on that, And then you can play with the diet a little bit too. That other 50% too, you want to navigate it. You want to live. There's going to be a hot fudge sundae in there some point. You know what I mean? Or a birthday
I've heard
cake
you before
or whatever.
say, and I use this with my kids, is celebration foods.
Yeah.
And like what makes it a celebration food is we don't have it every day. It's something that usually is going to be, you're going to partake in it at a place where there is some sort of, it's a birthday party or it's some sort of celebration, and maybe even just the food itself, because it's a rarity, is a celebration as opposed to an everyday thing.
Like, Annie, when you came in here, I thought I would never ask you this, but the thing that I love.
Uh-oh.
No. This like I didn't know what kind of vibe you would have about you, and then I only knew what Anea had told me about you, and then obviously went to your shop, love it, But the thing that even as you talk, like I love the fact that you said, yeah, frozen vegetables are cool. I know that you're not saying they're the best, but you're saying that can still
They're
work.
super good. In my world, they're fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw this out there. Like when someone like rocks a hot dog, like, hey, I'm going to have a hot dog tonight. Like, why do I get the feeling that you'd be like, yeah, throw some avocado on that, maybe some sauerkraut.
See, you
Joe,
get
you're
me.
such a good student.
Yeah, you
love
get me
that.
chop up a little onion and get them involved in it too. What would make this, what's some healthy things that we can add to this so that we all feel good about it? Get a whole wheat bun, you know what I mean? And find a hot dog that doesn't have human DNA in it too, because I just read this big report that has a lot of other things in that hot dog. We always knew there was other stuff in there.
I knew there was other
but
stuff.
they identified human DNA in it. And I was like, okay, so,
right.
But there's going to be better hot dogs out there. So spend
They can't even talk.
I'm just like stunned right now. My mouth, not much shuts me up. But
That's our next episode. We got to find out. We got to break it down. We got to go.
I'll send you the article.
okay.
Don't send it to me because I'm going to have a hot dog on 4th of July.
Yeah, we get through Anea and then give it to him after the 4th
Okay.
of July. But you know what? There's better hot dogs
Wow.
out there. Like, spend a little money on it. Don't go for the super cheap, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
get something that has a little bit of quality to it. It's like the difference between, like, factory farmed hamburger and grass-fed.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Yeah.
And there's a flavor difference, too, and
Yeah.
a nutritional quality.
So wait, that's a good tip. What could we look for? Like when you say find a little bit better quality, whatever it is. It could be
like
the
that.
hot dog. It could be ground beef. It could be what would be something to look for to discern that this is the better choice besides just like it's double the price.
And what to avoid.
All beef. And there's nothing in there but beef or whatever it is.
So look
you know
at
what I
the
mean?
ingredient list.
Read the
See that
ingredients.
you're only getting what you think you're getting or what you want,
Yeah.
and stay away from the one that's got that.
What are the
core
words you
ingredient.
wanna
If it's
look
got
for?
a lot of chemicals on it, you don't want it,
Okay.
right? So in meat, you're going to look for sustainable. You're going to look for no antibiotics or fed to that animal. So basically, anybody in the 80s who ate a chicken wing had antibiotics. You know what I mean? Like everything was antibiotic. Now we've come to a new place, like from me and tens of thousands of others that were like pushing for food purity, and now we have grass-fed beef. We have, sustainably caught fish. We have. So there's websites where you can look at that too. See, there's a list of fishes that you can eat that are really, sustainably caught and they're not factory farmed and
Or polluted with mercury.
all of that. And there's a way to navigate it just by a little bit of education. So, so why are you paying more for that grass-fed animal, right? Or wild animal too. Like there's a place that sells these elk burgers that are off the hook, and every once in a blue moon when I want meat, I go for elk. I know you like bison.
Yes, I love bison.
There's something about me and elk. I'm like, I finally found my big animal that I like. But here's the thing: they are fed their natural diet. Factory farmed animals are not. They're fed soy and corn, which are the most hybridized, genetically modified foods on the planet. Corn is the most grown food on the planet. It has a very fast-moving sugar to it, so it doesn't break down in the body very well, and so you store that material. That's how a lot of that is how people gain weight too, because the cow is fed an unnatural diet. They have 6 stomachs. They're supposed to graze all day long. That's all they're supposed to do is just graze on it, and instead they're given these oats and not just oats so much. So it's made out of soy and corn feed, right? That's designed to get them from a baby to a huge heifer that they can slaughter
as quickly as
possible. And that's the only goal.
So
Your health and safety is not a goal of theirs.
So then I have to bring this to the conversation because I know this is also something in this part of the world. So we've talked a little bit about like sort of the ADD and those sort of diagnoses. What about the obesity factor? Like when we are seeing children who partly, I think we have a more sedentary generation of kids who are gaming and TV watching and blah, blah, blah. But I know for a fact it also has to do with diet. And I've heard you mention before the fact that there are some foods, so whether we're children or adults, that our bodies just hold on to, and particularly in our abdominal area. And we're like, what's going on here? Like I'm working out every other day, or I don't feel like I'm taking in that many calories, and yet still I have this weight that I just can't seem to get rid of.
Yeah, so the other thing that they do to these animals, and they feed them steroids, growth hormones, and antibiotics. So we don't really need steroids, growth hormones, and antibiotics. We don't have antibiotics are specifically treated to stop, something that's going to kill you very quickly. That's when penicillin came along. All of a sudden, like all these people that would have died with their infections, they're alive today. So antibiotic overdose and overabuse is just a big thing that I've always been against always been educating people about how to reseed the microbiome, not how to just break it down. So if you don't have a microbiome that's has the high integrity of lots of fermented foods in it, and you have had antibiotics in the past, you're already less of your immune system is already like needing more shoring up than the average person, like a kid in Africa who's never had antibiotics or something like that, right? So it's very important the kind of that food that you put in. Are you ever, you're going to go someplace sometime and have a steak that is not, that's not grass fed,
right?
But you want to be on the scale of, okay, I'm setting myself up for success here,
right? Because most of the time,
yeah, and also like how much are you eating of it too? So, like at least if half the diet is fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, you're going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like you're going to get through
50%.
50%. And now if you're struggling and you're fighting off an illness or you've got a degenerative disease, then I would kick it up to 75 and then sometimes 100%. Like when somebody comes to me and says, look, I've been given 3 months to live. I'm like, okay, we're doing 100% here and we're going full on, like full on. And that, I reseed the microbiome with the fermented foods. I bring in this coconut yogurt that's off the hook that we make at my store. Billions of bacterium in there. It helps to reseed after antibiotics. And even just after a lifetime of meat eating, you've had a ton of antibiotics and it was hidden in the meat. You didn't even know it. But guess what? Here comes a virus, and you don't have it. Can't really defend yourself against it. You know what I mean? So then you have to really load up on the friendly bacteria because it crowds out the opportunistic, unfriendly bacteria, which is like the candidas and things like this. So balancing the microbiome is, I've just kind of dedicated the next 10 years of my life to like feeding the microbiome of America because so many free thinkers are born here. So many of these cosmic children that are coming up, being born now that are already, teenagers, some of them are just awesome. You're like, wow, what did you come
where'd
here
you
to
come
do?
from?
Yeah, and so I think that the best thing that we can do, and the thing that, like we talked a little bit about how we think and how our gut microbiome is, and to give them every opportunity, give all of us every opportunity is really to feed the 3 microbiomes, and there are 3. There are the gut, there's the skin, and there's the mouth. And so I'm working on all these different probiotics that really survive the stomach acid and implant into the intestinal tract, and then also some probiotic sprays where you can feed the biome of the skin. Many C-section babies don't have any. They were not inoculated by their mother's vaginal secretions, which is what sets up the microbiome for the life of that child, right?
Mind blown.
So, but you're going to love this, Anea. So the way around that, super simple, so simple it's cheap, is just to take a little like menstrual sponge or something like that. The baby's already born C-section, and inoculate it with the vaginal secretions that they didn't get coming through the birth canal.
Wow.
And it works.
Wow.
It works. So what happens if you don't have the microbiome on the skin? You get kind of eczema, it can be really chronic, all kinds of skin diseases. It can even be like eye, ear, nose, and throat type of things. You see all these kids that have like the ear infections and, like tonsillitis and all of this kind of thing, bronchial infections. All of that sets it up because our skin is the largest organ of the body.
Yeah.
It's the and it's the defense between us and the world.
Right.
So it's very, very important that we have that microbiome, and it's easy to do.
Annie is on fire right now.
It's those little brain. What are they called again? Those little capsules that we had.
Oh, brain on.
Brain on. Her brain is on.
Yeah.
So is mine, Joe. We're leaving you in the dust.
Well, I'm telling you.
you.
All I'm saying is this.
Bob.
I'm not in the dust. I'm just saying that we always had a good episode when I don't talk a lot in it because people are saying things that are super, super knowledgeable. And this is the first episode, and Anea hasn't said a lot. It's like, seriously, can I ask you a question? Do you have your own podcast? Because
no.
You should.
Yes, agreed.
I'm kind of thinking about it now. Like I just restructured my whole company and all of that. And now I want to teach again more.
Oh my gosh.
And
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm offering you this studio to do your own podcast. You'd come in every week. And I'm telling you, I would just want to hear you talk like, all right, today we're talking about this.
Yes.
We're going to talk about your liver. We're going to talk about, hey, you're turning 50? Check this out. Oh, hey, you're about to have a baby? This is what you need to do. Like, I'm telling you.
No, that would be
I'll do it.
amazing.
Because I'm telling you, everything you're talking about, I mean, like, the show obviously started out with nutrition for ourselves, for our kids, for our entire family. I've learned, I think I'm eating 50% live. What do I call it? Do you call it live?
Yeah,
live
food.
food.
Mm-hmm. Live food.
Living food, live food.
Yeah.
But the idea of all of what you're talking about, like I seriously thought you were going to come in and just be like, look, if you talk about steak, I will leave this studio. Or if you talk about eating a burger, I will slap you. Like I seriously thought I was a little nervous.
One of those militant vegans that are so
I didn't
angry.
know. Yeah, I didn't know.
That's not Annie's vibe. I could have told you that.
I didn't know that, but I love though, and I feel that our listeners are going to connect so much with you on the fact of the anchoring it down and saying, hey, look, check it out. You can go 50%. Start with 50%. and that can really make a difference.
So would that be like, I mean, here I was like, okay, our big goal is going to be, three tips to take away. But it sounds to me like if to just leave it wide open and have people do it in their own way is just incorporate 50% of your diet and your child's diet. And it's always better when you do it together as a family.
And who is listening?
I
This
know,
guy.
Joe, you're amazing. You're such a good
Isn't
listener.
it funny? I came up with it.
So 50% of
Yeah.
the time, this is the one big thing you're going to do. The one big takeaway is just start the change immediately by incorporating 50% of your
that.
diet as live food.
Absolutely.
Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and that will have an immediate impact. And I could just tell you firsthand, these are my two great Annie Jubb success stories in right here. This person right here. Number one, my father was staying with me when I did the gallbladder cleanse for the first time.
That's right.
This is a man who at 23, I mean, he still has this enormous scar on his abdomen because he had gallstones, his gallbladder taken out when he was 23, and he was staying with me when I passed these gallstones, and he's like, "Are you freaking kidding me?
I could have just pooped him out?
Yes. What? How did you do that?" So that was the first one, and then the second one is I absolutely believe, throughout my pregnancy, I'd had this, an early, at 9 weeks, because I was of quote unquote of advanced maternal age. There were all these worries about this baby wasn't going to be healthy and whatever. And I went on the Annie Jubb, journey, and I always say that she was 11 pounds 1 ounce because she had ideal growing conditions. She just was huge and
You almost
healthy.
went too far, 11 pounds,
Exactly.
Really?
Full adult coming out there.
Yeah.
Hey, Annie, if someone wants to hit you up, are you cool with maybe giving out an email address for someone to reach
Absolutely.
out to you
Yes.
that maybe has questions about what we've talked about today on the show, or maybe questions, maybe questions about their own personal health?
Absolutely. It's Annie Jubb, ANNIEJUBB, boy, at mac.com. And you can see my, I have anniejubb.com, and I have lifefoodorganic.com as well.
Okay, great. So they can check out basically the two locations you have. And
But the email is the easiest way to just get directly to me.
I hope that a live food organic can be somewhere everywhere.
I'm working on it.
Is there talk about that?
Yeah, I'm franchising.
Because I know a lot of people might be listening and be like, hey, the only thing I got is Whole Foods or maybe Trader Joe's. Or people that are like, I just don't have any access to either. I'm going to have to make it work at Ralph's. I'm going to have to make it work at Safeway.
And
But what's
according
so
to
great,
this prescription,
Make it
you
work at
absolutely
Ralph.
can.
I think everybody should. I've done a lot of trainings in the middle of America where there was just, this is going back, 25 years or something, to Oklahoma, and the only thing there was an IGA, and I went in there and just with 3 shopping carts. I had 40 people for this 8-day training I was doing, and I just loaded it up. I was like, okay, they have no avocado. I'm never going to find basil here. Okay, what do we have? Cantaloupes. We got a ton of cantaloupes. Buy the cantaloupes. Do what you can to do the right thing, and also make it colorful too, because the different colors that are involved are really important. So the plate should be colorful. Go with different colors. Okay, you have some tomato, get something green on there, get some blueberries sometimes. Work the range of color spectrum because they all have real magic to them. Red color. The red color, it protects us from ELF waves. It protects us from cell phone and computer ELF waves, and when we fly in planes, it's really important to eat some red pigmented foods because it really protects you from the ELF waves that pour right through your body.
Okay, I'm
Simple
telling you right
teaching.
now, that'd be one of your episodes when you do your podcast.
Yep. So 3
Flying on a
takeaways.
plane.
Let me just reiterate.
Flying on a plane. I would listen.
Yes, this is going to help everybody in their day-to-day life. So the 3 takeaways are going to be 50% of the diet, live foods. The second thing is going to be make it colorful. And the third thing that we said early on that I think is really important is, especially as parents with your kids, get them involved.
Yeah.
Help them not only, at the bare minimum, help them have choice, give them choices, but the ideal would be get them involved in preparing the food and understanding where it comes from and wouldn't it be awesome to plant a garden or just go to the store and have them help you pick out foods that are alive and are going to be part of the meal that they're going to contribute to making.
That is so crucial because that they are involved in the shopping of it even is really great because it keeps them away from the candy aisle. And they're looking at this, I have a godson and I spent a lot of time with him when he was 6, 7, and 8 years old. And we'd walk into the health food store and I'd say, you can have anything you want in this section.
Nice.
What's it going to be? And he's like, raspberries.
Anything I want?
Anything
Really?
I want? Really?
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, if it's a raw living food, go for it, And he'd always pick, he loves berries and stuff like this. And then, if you want to get into any kind of food preparation too, whenever I'm doing a family meal for people, I always take the young kids and I say, what's your dish going to be? I'm going to help you. We're going to shop for it. I'm going to help you prepare it. And then you get to present it too. And they
Love it. 100%.
Annie Jubb.
Boom.
Annie Jubb.
Annie Jubb.
Annie Jubb. Am I saying it right?
Jubb.
Annie Jubb.
Jubb, Jubb.
There you go.
Yep.
Ruling it right now. Life Food Organic. You can hit her up on email with any questions you have. One more time with that, Annie.
AnnieJubb@mac.com.
And all I got to say is thank you so much for coming in. You've blown my mind. I want you to start your own podcast because you could take a topic. There was 50 topics today that I would listen to you just talk. No Joe Sib in there at all. It's just you. Just a mic in front of your face. And we just go. And you just throw knowledge on people. And I love your attitude, too.
It sounds like a
a
lot of
couple
fun.
words you threw in there, too, is spirit and color. Like, I love that. It's a definite positive vibe.
Yeah, eating is a spiritual experience.
Yeah, well, you've definitely made me reconsider. Like, I think I'm at 50% raw food. I think I am.
Yeah.
I think I am, but I think I'm going to go hardcore. Hey, before you get out of here, because Anea makes fun that I can't read because I don't have my readers on. Is there anything you can do for my eyes that I could read again?
Yeah, absolutely.
My vision just bailed.
Yeah.
I mean, not like I can see you, but it just left. Suddenly one day I couldn't. I have to wear the glasses all the time. Or is that just I'm a done deal?
No, you can feed your eyes. You can feed every part of your body.
Yeah? What would you say?
Obviously carrots are really good. Anything with carotenes in it.
Got it.
And then the other thing is lutein. Lutein.
Okay.
Lutein, I think. Mm-hmm. And there's one that's really nice that's made with, what is it called?
Would that be like some sort of like
get in a supplement.
In a supplement, okay.
Yeah, in a supplement. And any like little tiny berries that have small, tiny, shiny seeds on them or in them. Blueberries, strawberries, blackberries. And go for the wilder ones. Like if you take hikes, in the mountains someplace and pick a little wild berry as you're going along.
I'm not going to do that, but I will. I will.
I thought I'd try.
I will do everything else.
All
Not
right.
going to be hiking. Want to thank Annie so much for being here. If you come to Los Angeles, you got to stop by her shop. It's amazing, and it's right in the heart of Hollywood. I mean, it's
You're going to be there anyway if you're a tourist.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be walking by there. It's right down the street from the Palladium. Life Food Organic on the corner of Cahuenga and Sunset. One more
Or
time.
in Santa Monica if
Or
you're
in Santa
by the
Monica.
beach.
If you want to go down to the beach and you want to hang out, you can do that as well. I want to thank you so much for being a part of the show. Mm-hmm. Annie, you'll come back again, right?
Absolutely.
You got to, because I'm telling you, people are going to hit us up emails.
Yeah.
Speaking of emails, if you want to hit us up at radparenting@gmail.com, any questions you have about this show or what you want us to put on the show, we will do. Also, you can hit us up at our parenting text number. Just text the word parenting to 313131. Oh, and Anea, I meant to tell you, remember when I said, hey, we want to take the show live on the road?
Yeah.
Got an email from a dude in Jersey.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, I want to bring you out. And he showed me a photo of the place that we would be
Oh,
at.
how fun.
It's this rad, like, coffee shop type thing. Like, it wasn't sketchy. Like,
well, that's good news.
Yeah, no, you don't know.
Good
you know,
to
like,
know.
hey,
Good
come
to
here.
know.
It's right behind where we work on the cars. Like, looked awesome.